Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, and Text 15. Tatha saha cha aham parivodu kamaha samanashilam gruhamedadhenum upeivan moolam asheshamulam durashayah kamadugha angripasya tata sachaham parivodu kamaha samanashilam gruhamedadhenum upeivan moolam asheshamulam durashaya kamadughangripasya. Tatha, similarly, saha, myself, cha, also, aham, I, parivodu kamaha, desiring to marry, samanashilam, a girl of like disposition, gruhameda, in married life, denam, a cow of plenty, upeivan, have approached, moolam, the root, lotus feet, ashesha, of everything, moolam, the source, durashayaha, with lustful desire, kamadugha, yielding all desires, angripasya, of you who are the tree. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swamy Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. Please repeat. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In spite of his condemning persons who approach the Lord for material advantages, Kardama Muni expressed his material inability and desire before the Lord by saying, although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, Jai Lakshmi Narasimha Swamy ki jai, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. The phrase like disposition is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl to see whether there would be factual union in their psychological conditions. These considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriage takes place without such consultation, and therefore soon after the marriage there is divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives, but nowadays it is very difficult task. Kardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition because a wife is necessary to assist in spiritual and material advancement. It is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all desires in religion, economic development and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, or a very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored by so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In the Bhagavatam 12th canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based on consideration of sex life. As soon as there is deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked his benediction from Uma, for it is recommended in the scriptures that if anyone wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead because it is recommended in the Bhagavatam that everyone, whether he is full of desires, has no desire or desires liberation, should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires. Another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme, and another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental loving service. In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshipping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankering. The Sanstha Bhaktivedanta Purporto Madhyanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Swate Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here Kardama Muni is now disclosing his mind and expressing his desire at the lotus feet of the Lord, who is present in front of him riding on Garuda. In the last verse, Kardama Muni condemned people who approach Krishna for some material desires. And then he said, anybody who goes to the Lord, Jai Radha Govinda, Upasate Kama Lavaya Tesham. Anybody who worships Krishna or the Supreme Lord for the sake of some momentary pleasures of this life, then he is considered Hatamedasa. He is considered to be bereft of good intelligence. But then in this verse, he is expressing his own desire that he is saying, Parivodu Kamaha, my Lord, I am desiring to marry. And then he is praying for a Samana Shilam Gruhamedu Dhenum. He is asking for a good girl having Samana Shilam, equal disposition, similar mentalities. Upeyivan Moolam Asesha Moolam, he is praying at the lotus feet of the Lord. Durashaya Kama Dughangripasya. He is saying, I am taking shelter of your lotus feet, which is the source of everything, and it is like a desire tree. So here, the Kardama Muni's Kama, or the lusty desire, is not like the way we see the lusty desires in this world. He is an exalted personality, an exalted devotee of the Lord, and he is ordered by Lord Brahma to enhance the progeny in the universe. Impelled by the order, he is now praying to the Lord to give a shape to that order. In order to enhance the progeny, obviously he has to marry. And then here the important point is like disposition, Samana Shilam. So the boy and girl should have like disposition. They should have similar inclinations and tendencies. Then only the marriage will become successful. And why marriage? Only to produce dharmic children. The entire goal is to produce good progeny. This is the the aim of a good married life. So he is here requesting for a girl who is having a similar disposition. Now, how will you find that a girl has a similar disposition or not? Because just by seeing we will not be able to understand. So that's why the horoscope of the both boy and girl used to be taken from the astrologer, and then if the horoscope charts are matching, then the boy and girl are married, so that they can live together whole life and then engage in the spiritual life. The focus is to become Krishna conscious. Then it will be called as Gruhastha Ashrama. Ashrama means the center is Krishna. The center is not lust or not any other selfish motive. The whole aim is to progress in Krishna consciousness. So here, nowadays nobody has belief in all this. So they do not see the equal disposition of boy and girl. Or rather, they get attracted by the external features of a boy or a girl, and then the marriage is done. They call it as love at first sight. A boy or a girl sees, and immediately there is an attraction, and then they think that attraction is real. Real means the attraction is not actually deep. It is simply skin basis, very external, very superficial attraction. And when they get married and then they have to live together on a day-to-day basis, then comes out their dispositions, their inclinations. Imagine the wife wants to, the boy, let us say, he is a devotee and then he is worshipping cow, and the wife wants to eat cow and she is preparing something inside the kitchen. now you would, now tell me how long this marriage will survive. And then you will say, no, this is not good, you should not do. And so that's your philosophy. My philosophy is different. It all can be done. So it will not survive. It has to be an equal disposition. That's why here Prabhupada is stressing on this word samana shila. Character should be there. And both should have similar character. If the boy is demoniac in tendency, girl also should be of the same tendency. If the boy is godly, girl also should be godly. And if you marry godly and demoniac qualities together, then it will not survive. So that's why the parents used to be very careful. They used to ensure that the boy and girl don't fall for superficial attractions. So the community was the whole society was organized in such a way that the boys and girls don't mix together very loosely. These are some of the systems in the society. In fact, the girl never used to go outside the house, other than very required things. A married woman, let us say, wants to go to a temple or a nearby house. They used to go in a palanquin, and carried by some people, and it used to have those curtains so that nobody can see. And so there is a deliberate segregation of these sexes, the genders, so that there is no superficial attraction. Already there is a biological attraction between a man and woman. Nature has created that. But the Vedic culture was in such a way that this attraction was not artificially glorified and then artificially enhanced. Because the real thing is not the superficial attraction. The real thing is a dharmic life, a Krishna conscious life. This is the idea. But if the people are carried away by the superficial things, it becomes very difficult for them to focus on the main aspect of life, that is to become Krishna conscious. So that's why here it is mentioned, nowadays they don't consult, and marriage takes place without consultation. So then what happens? The question of living together for whole life becomes very difficult. Very, very difficult. Every day is a drag, every day is a burden, and then they don't want to live together. Then what will happen? Obviously the question of divorce will come. And nowadays the divorce has become very, very a predominant culture throughout the world. So as the society becomes more materialistic and becomes more inclined towards only sense gratification, then the divorce rates will increase. In Kali Yuga, it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that the relation between man and woman is simply based on sex life, that's all. As long as the sex life is going on, consideration of sex life is going on, they will live together, and as soon as there is some problem, then immediately there is a divorce. If the husband is not well, or if the wife is sick, or this and that, immediately there is a dissonation. Immediately there is a difference. And if husband and wife becomes disabled for whatever reason, then immediately there is a divorce. There are many judgments of the court also, that if the sex life is disturbed, yes, you can go for divorce. There are also approved the Kali's formula. But the Bhagavatam is saying, no, that's not the purpose for which you entered the Grihastha life. Married life is not meant for sex life. Sex is meant for producing children, that's all. As part of your Grihastha Dharma, some children are required, and those children should be Krishna conscious. And for that there are some regulations, how a husband and wife should meet. There are some regulations. There are some samskaras to be done before a man and woman can combine. Otherwise, the children who are produced, their quality will be very Shankara. They are kind of unwanted population. Even husband and wife don't want children. This is the scenario. But still the children are produced, so they become unwanted child. And both husband and wife don't want to take care. Now grandparents are there in the house, they are also not there. They are away from everybody, they don't want to take care of the children. This is the mood of the family life, where there will be peace and prosperity. So, a completely ulta-pulta civilization. The value system is completely ulta-pulta. Where has to be focused? They have no idea. But here, Kardama Muni, he knows. His focus is on Moolam Ashesha. Ashesha Moolam is focusing on the lotus feet of Krishna. This should be the mood. Even before the couple decides to combine to produce a child, they are supposed to focus on Krishna first. There is a Garbhadhana Samskara. It's a dhana, Garbhadhana Samskar. There has to be a focus on Krishna, and then the child will be a Krishna conscious child. Otherwise, there are so many cats and dogs already in the world, and there is no need of producing one more set of cats and dogs, and that will only burden the society. So when the parents become irresponsible and they produce children like cats and dogs, the society has to bear the brunt of this population, because they don't they have no such shilanam, there is no such character, godly character, and then they only create disturbances. They become big rowdies. And of course, girl, I don't know what you call rowdies or something. So they become like that. Then where is the chance for the society to be peaceful? Now in the society we see such people, very rough and very difficult people to deal with. So how there can be a peaceful life? And for them, divorce is only option that will be seemingly possible. So that's why the parents used to be very careful. They used to match the horoscopes but nowadays even the astrology, horoscopes, unless the person is very qualified, it's not easy. They may not come true. So Kali Yuga is like that, completely vicious, and it doesn't support the spiritual life. In this current of Kali, there is an anti-current created by Lord Chaitanya. The whole civilization is moving in one direction, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us an opportunity to practice Krishna consciousness. In that sense, he has created an anti-current to Kali Yuga. He has driven away Kali, and he has given this method of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Here one more point is mentioned that Kardama Muni, he has not approached Uma, Parvati, for a good wife. Generally in the Shastra it is recommended that if somebody wants a beautiful wife, he should approach Uma. Here Kardama Muni is not wanting any beautiful wife or anything. He wanted to fulfill the order of his superior, Lord Brahma. He has to marry and then he has to produce a progeny. So his mood is, it should be samashilanam, disposition should be same. Otherwise, of course, great personalities, in case there is a trouble in the family and then there is no equal disposition, even that becomes a big impetus for him to advance in Krishna conscious life. A similar thing we see in even in Prabhupada's life. Today is Prabhupada's Diksha Diwas, the day on which he has received initiation from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So we will see some one or two pastimes and also memories recollected by some of his foreign disciples. Here is one excerpt from Swamy in a Strange Land by Yogeshwar Prabhu. He is mentioning here, in 1922, one of Abhay's closest friends, Narendra Mullik, met monks from the Gaudiya Math, a Vaishnava institution, and the monks invited him to meet their guru. Like other well-to-do residents of Calcutta, Narendra was willing to support religious organizations if they were honorable, but honor was not always obvious. Many sannyasis came knocking at his door looking for donations. Who could tell what their motives were? Mata, religious schools abounded, and the monks charged with raising funds looked more or less alike. There was every chance his money would be wasted supporting a place for loafers who sponged off innocent Hindu families. The greater danger was inadvertently giving money to monks who indulged in sex or ate meat. Celibacy and meat-free diet were behavioral requirements for Vaishnavas. Narendra's friend Abhay always had good advice to offer, and Narendra asked that he accompany him to the mutt and provide a second opinion. Abhay declined. From childhood he said he had seen cheaters dressed like monks exploit his father's charitable nature. They took Gaur Mohan's donations, stepped outside his door, and lit up marijuana cigarettes. Some of his family relations ran a hoarding house for single men. Abhay recalled seeing one of these boarders dressed in saffron robes gulp down a cup of tea, finish a cigarette, and then grab his water pot and staff and head out the door to collect his daily sadhu's donation. Abhay had no patience for such people. I am not going, he told Narendra. There were more pressing matters. Orders in his pharmacy were waiting to be filled. Supplies needed to be restocked. There were customers to serve, meetings of Gandhi's movement to organize, and simply no time for listening to another so-called gurus spout off. Come on, Narendra insisted. As a courtesy to his friend, Abhay agreed to be dragged along. They arrived at a building on Ultadanga Junction Road in North Calcutta. A sign over the door announced that the one-story structure was headquarters of Gaudiya Math, the monastery of Greater India. Abhay and Narendra climbed a worn marble staircase to the roof. Air conditioning was scarce in those days, and public events were often scheduled on rooftops, where evening's breezes offered relief from the day's heat. Monks greeted the two guests and brought them to the front of the gathering to meet the head of their mission. Even seated Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's stature was obvious to Abhay. This was not another pretended sadhu. He seemed at least 6 feet tall and sat ramrod straight. His forehead was broad and high, his color fair. He wore the traditional robes of a sannyasi, 2 red dyed lengths of cloth, one wrapped around his waist and the other draped over his shoulders. 3 strands of small wooden tulsi beads looped around his neck. 2 strips of white clay ran from the bridge of his nose to his shaved head. the full uniform of a devout Krishna worshipper, and in Bhakti Siddhanta's case, Acharya of the Gaudiya Math. Vaishnava community elders elevated a candidate to the exalted position of an Acharya, head of a recognized lineage of teachers based on mastery of scripture and personal character. Historically, some Acharyas received their appointment as a result of family affiliation, for there was a sentiment that virtue and ability were inherited. If, for instance, a man's father and grandfather had served with distinction, it was assumed he possessed comparable talents. In Bhakti Siddhanta's case, both criteria applied. He was born of a late Bhaktivinoda Thakur, respected former head of a Vaishnava community, and prolific author and poet. And his own right, Bhakti Siddhanta demonstrated the character and wisdom of a true Acharya. Abhay and Narendra touched their foreheads to the ground in the traditional way of greeting a holy person. Something about Abhay must have impressed itself on Bhakti Siddhanta, as barely had Abhay stood up when Bhakti Siddhanta said, "You are an educated young man. Why don't you take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message and spread it in English to the Western world?" In the first meeting. In years to come, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swamy Prabhupada would describe that he hesitated when his guru issued the instruction that changed his life. Leave everything and travel to the West? How could he do that? Of course, Abhay knew quite a bit about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His father and mother had raised him as Chaitanya's follower, and since childhood he had been chanting Hare Krishna as Mahaprabhu had taught. But aside from an astrologer's questionable prediction, nothing in the profile of Abhay's life suggested he would become a religious leader. He and his wife Radharani had a 1-year-old daughter and were planning to have more children. He earned an honest living and paid his bills and left the religious grandstanding to others. More to the point, Abhay followed Gandhi and believed the real key to moving India forward was freedom from British rule. For hundreds of years, Bengal's Hindus and Muslims had lived in relative peace. It was the British who set one religion on the other and turned neighbors into enemies. When it came to choosing between religion and nationhood, to Abhay's 26-year-old mind, Gandhi's movement came first. Rid India of the Raj, and her millennial wisdom will have a platform for expression. Sir, Abhay said, who will hear Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message so long as we are a dependent nation? Let us first achieve our independence, then we can spread Indian culture. Bhakti Siddhanta disagreed. Mahaprabhu's message did not depend on politics. Real independence, he said, meant freeing the soul from the shackles of illusion. Doctrines of impersonalism and voidism pervaded India's thinking. These dangerous ideas decrying the personhood of God were the true enemies, not the British. Until people were trained to know the difference between the body and soul and the soul's ultimate fulfillment and love of God, they would never know peace. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had given the formula, chant Hare Krishna, follow the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and the Son of Krishna will rise to illumine a dark time. It was indeed a dark time. In 1920, a visit by the Prince of Wales had turned into a 4-day riot. Shops were pillaged, and any European seen in public were attacked. Just weeks before Abhay's meeting with Bhakti Siddhanta, a mob stormed a police station in the town of Chauri Chaura, beat 22 officers to death, and burned their bodies. Nationalism had released poisonous resentment, and civil disobedience was careening out of control. As much as Abhay had convinced himself Gandhi held the torch of truth, he could not stand by that conviction after hearing Bhakti Siddhanta speak about re-spiritualizing the world. By comparison with such a global mission, Gandhi's plans for a politically independent country seemed stunted and trifling. Up to that moment, Abhay's perspective had been primarily Indian. Bhaktisiddhanta was proposing something greater, something universal. Despite his attraction to nationalism, something in the brief exchange with Bhaktisiddhanta quickened Abhay's pulse. They had not spoken long, maybe an hour, but in that short space of time, Bhaktisiddhanta managed to refute Abhay's assumptions that God took a back seat to politics and that independence offered a lasting solution to India's woes. India suffered from lack of a spiritual revolution, Bhaktisiddhanta argued, and campaigning for political independence merely distracted from the more critical campaign launched by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to reinstate God in his creation. British rule was irrelevant. Not only India, but all of humanity needed liberating. The next day, Abhay walked into the office of his employer, Dr. Kartik Chandra Bose, and resigned. Bose had been the D family's doctor for more than 20 years and had watched Abhay grow up. The elder physician appreciated the personal touch Abhay always brought to their customers, such as answering requests for pricing with handwritten letters, but Bose also recognized how headstrong Abhay could be and knew better than to question his plans. I understand your attraction to this teacher, Bose said. Still, you are a family man. I will give you a franchisee to my company's products. Sell wherever you like, whenever you like. The commissions will be more than your current salary and you will still have time for these pursuits. Abhay weighed his options. What was work or money or even family compared to the instruction he had received on the roof of Gaudiya Math? Bhaktisiddhanta had opened his eyes to the meaning of Krishna devotion, and taking Krishna's message to the West was no trifling matter. It would not happen between sales calls. Still, Bose had a point. No one travels abroad without funds, and pharmaceuticals had potential. India was ripe for Indian-made goods, and Bose prices were better than those of the British. Maybe he could save some money and then go to West. Abhay agreed to Bose's offer to start a franchisee. The talk with his wife did not go as well. Radharani did not share her husband's enthusiasms, political, religious, or otherwise, and here he was telling her Gandhi had it wrong and that he would be going to the West. There are no witnesses or diaries from which to assess her reaction to Abhay's meeting with Bhaktisiddhanta, but when they married, it is likely she did not envision becoming a missionary's wife. That is from Yogeshwara Prabhu. Then there is one more. This is about Abhay's third meeting with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in Allahabad. This is the day of his initiation. So following is an excerpt from volume 1 of Prabhupada's Leelamrita by Saswarup Das Goswami. Abhay had only recently returned from Vrindavan to his work at Prayag Pharmacy when the devotees at the Allahabad Gaudiya Math informed him of the good news. They had secured land and funds for constructing a building, the Sri Rupa Gaudiya Math, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would be coming on November 21st to preside over the ceremony for the laying of the cornerstone. Sir William Malcolm Hailey, Governor of the United Provinces, would be the respected guest and in a grand ceremony would lay the foundation stone in the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. When Abhay learned that there would also be an initiation ceremony, he asked if he could be initiated. Atulananda, the Mata's president, assured Abhay that he would introduce him to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. At home, Abhay discussed his initiation plans with his wife. She had no objection, but she did not want to take initiation herself. They were already worshipping the deity at home and offering their food to the deity. They believed in God and were living peacefully. But for Abhay, that was not enough. Although he would not force his wife, he knew that he must be initiated by a pure devotee. Avoiding sinful life, living piously, these things were necessary and good, but in themselves they did not constitute spiritual life and could not satisfy the yearning of the soul. Life's ultimate goal and the absolute necessity of the self was love of Krishna. That love of Krishna his father had already inculcated within him, and now he had to take the next step. His father would have been pleased to see him to do it. What he had learned from his father was now being solidified by someone capable of guiding all the fallen souls of the world to transcendental love of God. Abhay knew he should go forward and take complete shelter in the instructions of his spiritual master. And the scriptures enjoin, he who is desirous of knowing the absolute truth must take shelter of a spiritual master who is in disciplic succession and who is fixed in Krishna consciousness. Even Lord Chaitanya, who was Krishna himself, had accepted a spiritual master, and only after initiation did he manifest the full symptoms of ecstatic love of Krishna while chanting the holy name. As for the real ritual initiation he had received at age 12 from a family priest, Abhay had never taken it very seriously. It had been a religious formality, but a guru was not a mere officiating ritualistic priest. So Abhay had rejected the idea that he already had a guru. He had never received instructions from him in bhakti, and his family guru had not linked him through disciplic succession with Krishna. But by taking initiation from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he would be linked with Krishna. Bhakti Siddhanta, son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and disciple of Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, was the guru in the 12th disciplic generation from Lord Chaitanya. He was the foremost Vedic scholar of the age, the expert Vaishnava who could guide one back to Godhead. He was empowered by his predecessors to work for the highest welfare by giving everyone Krishna consciousness, the remedy for all sufferings. Abhay felt that he had already accepted Srila Bhakti Siddhanta as spiritual master, and that from their very first meeting he had already received his orders. Now, if Srila Bhakti Siddhanta would accept him as his disciple, the relationship would be confirmed. He was coming so soon after Abhay had seen and heard him in Vrindavan. That was how Krishna acted through his representative. It was as if his spiritual master, in coming to where Abhay had his family and business, was coming to draw him further into spiritual life. Without Abhay's having attempted to bring it about, his relationship with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta was deepening. Now Srila Bhakti Siddhanta was coming to him as if by a great higher arrangement. On the day of the ceremony, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati met with his disciples at the Allahabad Gaudiya Math on South Mallaka Street. While he was speaking Harikatha and taking questions, Atulananda Brahmachari took the opportunity to present several devotees, Abhay amongst them, as candidates for initiation. The Allahabad devotees were proud of Mr. D, who regularly attended the matha in the evening and led bhajans, listened to the teachings and spoke them himself, and often brought respectful guests. He had contributed money and had induced his business colleagues also to do so. With folded palms, Abhay looked up humbly at his spiritual master. He and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta were now face to face, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta recognized him and visibly pleased to see him. He already knew him. Yes, he said, exchanging looks with Abhay. He likes to hear. He does not go away. I have marked him. I will accept him as my disciple. As the moment the words became impressed into his being, Abhay was in ecstasy. Atulananda was pleasantly surprised that his Gurudev was already in approval of Mr. D. Other disciples in the room were also pleased to witness Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's immediate acceptance of Mr. D as a good listener. Some of them wondered when and where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had arrived at such an estimation of the young pharmacist. At that initiation, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was seated on a Vyasasan, and the room was filled with guests and members of the Gaudiya Math. Those to be initiated sat around a small mound of earth where one of the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's sannyasis prepared a fire and offered grains and fruits into the flames, while everyone chanted mantras for purification. Abhay's sister and brother were present, but not his wife. Abhay basked in the presence of his Gurudev. Yes, he likes to hear the words of his spiritual master, and his glance of recognition had remained with Abhay. Abhay would continue pleasing his spiritual master by hearing well. Then he thought, I will be able to speak well. The Vedic literature described 9 processes of devotional service, the first of which was Shravanam, hearing about Krishna. Then came Kirtanam, chanting about and glorifying him. By sitting patiently and hearing at Kosi, he had pleased Krishna's representative. And when Krishna's representative was pleased, Krishna was pleased. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was pleased, had not praised him for donating money to the Mata, and had not advised him to forsake his family and business and travel with him, nor had he asked Abhay to perform great austerities like the yogis who mortify their bodies with fasts and difficult vows. But he likes to hear, he had said, I have marked him. Abhay thought about it and again listened carefully as his spiritual master conducted the initiation. Finally, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called for Abhay to come forward and receive the Harinam initiation by accepting his beads. After offering prostrated obeisances, Abhay extended his right hand and accepted the strand of japa beads from the hand of his spiritual master. At the same time, he also received the sacred Brahmanical thread signifying second initiation. He got first and second. Usually, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave the first initiation, Harinam, and only after some time, when he was satisfied with the progress of the disciple, would he give the second initiation. But he offered Abhay both initiations at the same time. Now Abhay was a full-fledged disciple, a Brahmana who could perform sacrifices such as this fire yajna for initiation. He could worship the deity in the temple and would be expected to discourse widely Bhaktisiddhanta widely. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta added Aravinda, lotus, to his name. Now he was Abhay Charanaravinda. After Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left Allahabad for Calcutta, Abhay keenly felt the responsibility of working on behalf of his spiritual master. At the initiation, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has instructed Abhay to study Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which outlined the loving exchanges between Krishna and his devotees and explained how a devotee can advance in spiritual life. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was a law book for devotional service, and Abhay would study it carefully. He was glad to increase his visits to the Halaba center and to bring new people. Even at his first meeting with spiritual master, he had received the instruction to preach the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and now he began steadily and carefully considering how to do so. Preaching was a responsibility at least as binding as that of home and business. Even in his home, he wanted to engage as far as possible in preaching. He discussed with his wife about his plans for inviting people into their home, offering them prasadam and holding discussions about Krishna. She did not share his enthusiasm. Prabhupada, my wife was a devotee of Krishna, but she had some other idea. Her idea was just to worship the deity at home and live peacefully. My idea was preaching. Srila Prabhupada, so anyway, from 22 to 33, practically I was not initiated, but I got the impression of preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult. That I was thinking. and that was the initiation by my Guru Maharaj. I passed on as a householder, but by the causeless mercy of my Divine Master, that order of preaching was impressed on my heart. I was initiated regularly in 1933 in Allahabad when Sir Malcolm Hailey, the then governor of UP, opened a Gaudiya Math branch there. One more from Prabhupada's letter to Hanuman Prasad Padhar. And in 1933 I was officially initiated, and my only qualification was when I was introduced to my Guru Maharaj for initiation. So Guru Maharaj immediately said, yes, I shall initiate this boy. He is very nice. He hears me very patiently. He does not go away. So that was my qualification. The high standard of philosophy which he was speaking at that time, practically I could not follow what he was speaking, but still I liked to hear him. That was my hobby. Whenever I was asking that when Guru Maharaj will speak, so he took it very seriously. This is his Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Disappearance Day Lecture, Hyderabad. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Diksha Diwas Mahamahotsav ki jai.
శ్రీకృష్ణుణ్ణి చేరుకోవడానికి, కృష్ణ భక్తి అందరికీ అందించటానికి బృందావనం వైపు ఉరకలేస్తున్న యమునోత్రి. విష్ణుపాదమే తన పుట్టినిల్లుగా కైలాసం చేరుకోవడానికి పరుగులు తీస్తున్న గంగోత్రి. కురుక్షేత్ర ఘోరహత్యా పాపం శంకరుణ్ణి శాంతపరచడం లక్ష్యంగా పాండవులు నిర్మించిన కేదార్నాథ్. సమస్త సాధు పుంగవులకు, ఋషులకు, ఆధ్యాత్మిక సాధనకు స్ఫూర్తినిచ్చే నరనారాయణులను నడయాడిన ప్రదేశం బద్రీనాథ్.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణవాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700.